questions on this?
So, you've got one-time expenses of $2,600 for door closed signs and traffic cones. And I'm just wondering if you went a couple of years with no expense against the grants and hazardous mitigation, do you think there's gonna be?
We currently, right now, we have a, we wrote for a grant for protective equipment for forest fire stuff. We don't know that until like towards the end of the year, whether or not that we get it. Last year we were denied, and that covers anything as far as matching grants that we may apply for. Is basically for what that line is. But I'll leave that totally up to the board.
It can always be cut if you get turned down, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I'm just looking at the historical numbers running from 2012 at $7,000 to 2016 at 11,300 to this year at 15,600, and there seems to be a pretty steep curve there.
And we have changed things as we go along as far as like the defib maintenance that was all put into one section. Before it was spread out. Generators, same deal. It's into one section.
Okay. As I look at current expense in the various lines, forest fire, that really depends upon
What is going on and what you
if there are
have,
forest
what you
fires,
buy
right?
for stuff. Yep.
Right. Is that supplies and equipment, or is that personnel?
It all depends on what happens, as far as that particular forest fire section. That line covers the Red Hill Fire Tower. I believe that the amount or cost of that is $1,500 a year.
Okay, so we haven't spent that yet then.
If it is at still 44, no. I have to go back and look at that. I can tell you that further as far as it goes. And
So that's an
then,
annual expense that happens every year.
Well,
yeah.
I'm just,
Excuse me. $1,050.
okay, that's spent over, right?
Yep.
But as I look back over several years, it's been over the last 4 years around $4,000
Yep.
or so, and this year you've spent $1,050 so far. So,
Right.
do you anticipate additional expense in that line this year?
You never know. You never
Okay.
know. I anticipate some further expense with that as far as different stuff.
The bad
But,
news is it was a class 3 day yesterday.
Well, it's a class 4 now. Everything's moved up to very high. And, depending on that, if we have to pay other towns for coming in for fires and stuff like that, you got into a situation that you needed to pay for helicopters, that's all going to come out of that particular section. It's obviously going to go over. Mutual aid wise, the different towns have been very good about not billing each other as far as if you're staying in your mutual aid. Outside of mutual aid, you can't guarantee that. But we've been working together as far as it goes, as far as bigger fires and stuff, to try to keep that reasonable. And that's where, to me, providing mutual aid to other towns as far as, airboat or personnel,
The
fire
RV.
trucks comes in, down the road and is paid back when we have the larger incident as far as Mount Shaw or something along that lines.
Okay, let me go down to the equipment line. You've got 3,300 and some in this year's budget. You've spent about a third of that so far. Do you anticipate that you have outstanding needs this year to use the rest of that
Yes.
money?
Yeah, there is some stuff that we haven't spent it because we haven't got through the time period as far as year-wise, that I'm comfortable with, buying the equipment that we had planned to purchase as far as it goes.
And the generator maintenance gets done at the end of the year?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So,
Usually November.
we're still under 2% if you combine the budgets.
If you roll in with the fire department.
Yeah, if you put the
Yeah.
both budgets together, you look at
It looks like a lot of money, but it's just, but a big increase in this, but the total budget here we're talking is 15,000 and change, so that's.
I guess we can just hopefully remember that next year, we're not gonna have to buy traffic cones and
Right.
Yeah.
road closed signs, so this number could change.
We had we had a big complaint that, how come we weren't forewarned for, road closures, and we just ran out of
Yeah. Get
stuff.
So, well, we had a huge use experience back in March too,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, having this stuff available when you need it,
Right. I mean,
the cost of being there is,
it would be nice to have, some of the digital signs and stuff like that, but they're $16,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And where do you put it? Who gets the whole thing?
do we have any sawbucks that we use? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
For, the two end pieces and the piece that slips in. Across it.
We have no wooden or plastic ones
Mhm.
of those. We have some smaller, they fold type of thing. Some of them metal, some of them are plastic
Yeah.
as far as it goes. We have a limited amount of that.
Well, I remember from the incident in March that there was some discussion afterwards about, people driving around cones, people taking stuff, and it just occurs to me that sawbucks might be something that would be harder for people to ignore, and more difficult for them to pilfer than picking up the traffic cones, and
Right.
if that happens, so it's the only reason I asked
We
that.
still have room for storage. We're not running out of room.
We store them upstairs
Okay.
at the station.
Because we're spending $2,000 a year to store the boat,
Correct.
so maybe sometime we'll talk about storage.
To me, spending, whatever it is, $1,900 for storing the boat is worthwhile because it takes up a tremendous amount of room.
Right.
We bring the boat into the central station. We actually move a piece that we have there to another station for a time period, do as much maintenance that we can to the boat, and do what we can to it for a time period. We also keep it there for until the ice somewhat sets, because we have had the occasion that we hook up to it and we launch it back into Pier 19 as long as we can make
If you have an access
access to it. We need it for a call, and yeah, we've had that situation that we've had to do that, and it's good to be able to do
The only
that.
reason I brought it up is that if you're running into storage, room constraints or whatever, you have to kind of remember that we're spending $2,000 out of pocket to store things currently. That's gonna offset the expansion of storage
Right.
in-house, so that's the only reason
Yeah.
I brought it up.
Yeah, the boat is unfortunately a big, you know, it's about 33 feet long, plus it's trailer, and, you know, it's far bigger than will fit into any of our other buildings as far as that goes. So it's kind of awkward as far as what it takes up for space type of thing. So.
What's your pleasure on this 4290? I'll move the amount of $15,630 for emergency management.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Anything else for us, sir?
Government buildings that I don't have, you don't have that stuff in front of you. I still am trying to get a couple estimates for a couple things, but overall wise, we look like it will be, you know, about the same as last year.
The big thing was getting the masonry done. Boy, that came out nice, didn't it?
Yep.
It buttoned that building right up.
It took care of some ant infestation, apparently, that we had in the building that could have caused some further problems. We didn't even know they were there because we just don't, you know, you don't see them type of thing. And that goes. I was looking at having some of the trim and stuff that was peeling painted. We can cover painting as much as possible as far as a lot of the lower stuff. When we start getting second story as far as trim and stuff, I'd rather see someone that is set up to do that, you know, on a regular basis. And we're looking at different quotes and things with that. The other item that we're looking at is at the Melvin station. As you're backing in, there are some steel pieces that go across on the cement part of the ramp, and that's deteriorating, and the cement is cracked. We were looking at replacing that at the Melvin station. And you can see where over the years, you know, some tar is built up, and every inch that you come up with that is something as far as the trucks.
Oh, because your height challenge.
Because of the height challenge. So we're trying to stay away from any major changes with that. But those are the couple estimates that I'm waiting. As far as the central station, that's all situated. I know what budget-wise that is coming in. I'm just waiting for the couple things for the other two.
Great.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming in.
Thank you. for
Have a
your
nice
time.
weekend, sir.
You too.
We have a couple of other things to go over, but these were things that Karen wanted me to run by you folks. First is
Do we want to go back to the legal budget?
you want to do that first?
No, it's on the
Okay.
agenda.
Do you want to break it down into a few more lines without changing the bottom line?
Well, it would, what I see here is if we want to break out another line, it's, it would just be for expense of cemetery trustees and trustees of the trust fund. I mean, there's already a planning line, conservation, and ZBA lines.
Mhm.
And we don't want to do two lines, one for cemetery and one for trustees.
Perhaps.
I think it's $600 each. So,
I kind of thought that the budget committee kind of was suggesting that.
So that would change the top line to 38,800 if we were to put $600. Are we at 6 or 9? So I'm sorry.
For cemetery.
We were at 9.
She's at 9, but that, part of that was the trust fund, okay?
I think, because
So-
you don't have anything for trust
So
fund.
6 each.
One of those bills was trust fund.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one of the things that happens is when we add an extra account in here and we start charging to it, then we'll know what the expense is.
Right.
Okay, and, I mean, now we
It's an
have,
accounting
we have a feel for what's there this year, so I would suggest that we add 2 more lines, one for cemetery trustees, one for trustees of the trust fund, and, you know, $600 apiece. And the important thing is that we charge the cost as it comes in to the line where it's actually being incurred. If we don't have enough budgeted in that line, it isn't a big deal. But until we start tracking it separately, we're just guessing in the wind.
Yeah. And further, I guess we want to go line by line. In addition to what Bill's suggesting about putting the 2 lines in at 600, if we do planning at 2,500, which is more
Yes.
like what they actually have spent, and ZBA at 1,000, which is still $2,000 less than they spent this year, but hopefully they won't get in trouble. That would change the top line from 40,000 to 35,300. If my penciled math is correct.
All right, so you're talking 35.3 for the top line, 2,500 for planning,
Right,
how much for ZBA, 1,000?
1,000,
Conservation.
400,
Yeah, and then 600 for each of the other 2. huh?
right,
So it comes out to 4280.
42,800,
800.
right. So I'll put that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0. Okay. Do you want me to go over this paperwork and have Diane come in?
Pardon me, excuse me, do you want to do Jack's budget too? Since we're on budget, so I had that note for
Okay.
adding
Give
to
us
his,
Jack's
he wants to
budget.
add to vehicle maintenance. I just actually put a note.
Please
down.
increase Jack's budget by $2,000 for vehicle maintenance in the event that the warrant article for the new vehicle is not approved. The motion is needed to move to increase that line, vehicle maintenance, to $3,000 for a budget 4240 total in the amount of $63,597. That's the request, correct?
Right.
What's your pleasure, board?
I'm kind of where we were last week.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of gilding the lily. I'm all for the changing the vehicle over because it's time to get a new vehicle.
I am.
If the legislative body decides they're not ready,
Then we'll have to
then
find money someplace to
we'll
do
take
the maintenance.
$2,000 out of something else. But if we add 2,000 to the budget and we get the warrant article, now we're, I think, going in the wrong direction a little bit.
Okay.
Just saying.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, my feeling is if we're confident that the vehicle replacement is the right thing to do, and we take it to the legislative body, that to hedge against, well, maybe they won't approve it, so let's put some other money in over here, is not the right approach. So,
That's a good budget.
and
I support you.
if the expense, if we have to continue with the existing vehicle and the expense goes beyond what's budgeted, that's on us. You know, it will be borne someplace within the total budget. I mean, Jack's made us very aware that what he's budgeted will not support all the maintenance this vehicle needs in the coming year, which is, underscores the request for replacing the vehicle.
We can't claim surprise. when we
Right,
look at
right.
that.
So if, if town meeting doesn't support replacing the vehicle and the vehicle expense is up, he's certainly on record with us, yes, it's gonna cost more to get it done, and we'll.
And it just
deal
becomes
with it.
part of the discussion when we're talking about the warrant article.
Yep.
Yes. We have a couple of pieces of paper here to sign. First of all is the Spectrum order for the cable. I've proofread it. Have you folks reviewed it?
Well, we reviewed it on Monday, and there were some changes that needed to be
Yes.
inserted, right? And those have been done.
Yes, they have.
So,
And I think we voted on.
we already voted
signing it.
to do it, so, yeah.
Karen, again, thank you for your part in all of this.
Welcome.
Clay mentioned it again. Next is Karen, please return to me after it is signed. Thank you, Heather. This is the Hunting and Fishing License Limited Agency Agreement. Something we sign every year. Does it need a motion, or do I just do it?
I'll move that we sign it.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
My motion passes.
I don't know if it needs a motion or not, but, it's formally approved by the board, so,
We got nothing else to do, we're sitting here.
right?
Next,
Providing good entertainment to Joe.
please review on the 20th, so the final agreement can be signed by Lloyd. Lakes Region Planning will come back to us in regards to whether or not Provider Power will fill in the blank fields for us.
Yeah.
This
This is-
power plant.
This is the power purchase agreement, right? So I looked it over, and one of the things that LRPC is doing is having the whole agreement reviewed by an attorney to make sure that it's that it's consistent with what is in the best interest of.
Did you see
Both of
this addendum?
Yeah, I sent it on.
Okay.
Yeah, but just as a recap, we talked about the cost being slightly less than the co-op's current kilowatt hour charge, and after that, actually on Monday afternoon, I received an email from LRPC that said that they just learned that the co-op's kilowatt hour rate is going from 7.3 cents to 9.1 cents effective November 1st. So that gives us a greater savings piece in there, because the power purchase agreement is at, where the heck it is. Anyway, it's less than what we were paying to the co-op before, and typically in the wintertime, the power prices go up, so that should provide us with some additional savings. Now, again, we're gonna lock in at a fixed rate every month through the period, and co-op is gonna go up and down, but we're gonna recognize some savings. And in retrospect, we ought to be able to look back and say, here's how much we saved.
And Lakes Region will probably come up with that number.
Oh, absolutely, they'll help us.
Did we already vote on this, or did we?
We did.
vote? Okay, so it's time
We
for me
did.
to sign.
No, you sign it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is not the final contract with all the stuff in, and Wednesday is the day that it's gonna, that needs to be signed and transmitted over to them.
You'll call me, right, Karen? Or do you work Wednesday?
Are we meeting Monday?
No,
No.
they're not. Why, you wanna meet Monday?
No, jeez, enough
Um,
meetings already.
And do you know if Diane has has
Got the health insurance?
Yes.
gotten back with them and verified the account numbers? I talked with her yesterday about that. They'd sent through an email saying, please verify the account numbers. the co-op.
Oh,
Contact
oh,
us.
oh, yeah, okay. I have no
Not-
idea
not-
about
not our
electricity,
budget
sorry.
account numbers,
No
the
idea
co-op
about
account numbers,
electricity,
all right.
sorry.
Yep.
I can grab her though? Can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything for us?
I just was wondering, I'm pretty confident that the ambulance contract will be discussed at budget committee, and if we could have a copy of the resident study that was done at Bob McWhorter and our, and we too can look at it and talk about it. So we can-
Well,
Hey,
you can talk about it, but just like we
Yes.
talk about it, it's pointless.
Yeah, I'm
Because,
just sure it'll be a topic of conversation.
right, but there's, unless somebody is suggesting that we break the contract,
Mhm.
what we're spending is in accordance with the terms of the contract.
Yeah.
So-
Working contracts. And this whole notion of, it's the worst deal ever negotiated, it's just, I mean,
Yes.
Rapper gets a little grumpy over this stuff.
It was,
Next time out, if you've got a problem, then join up and let's negotiate a better
Yeah.
deal. But that's the deal we have.
Right.
yeah, but it was, even last year, it was suggested that we not go forward with the contract.
So we would.
When
Well,
we
that's
talked
great,
about it.
but is the budget committee gonna recommend
No,
that we not do
don't.
it? So
But I-
why
but I-
do you wanna waste
But we
time?
didn't have any information, so I just was thinking if I had the documentation in
And
front
then
of
go and
me.
try and borrow money for a large project.
Yeah,
Do what it is to you.
okay,
Sorry,
that's all.
not school.
Yep.
Yep.
You asked if I had a question, there you
Yep.
go.
Yeah, so,
You're
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah, how are you?
hi there.
yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
Welcome to our meeting. How are you doing?
Good, good.
You have the floor.
Oh, I
Well,
do?
before we do that,
All right.
were you able to get back with LRPC on those?
I did this morning, and I had them send me the numbers so I can verify them.
Right,
And there's one that we don't have this account number on, so I don't know if it's a typo or what. But I've called them back and left a message, so.
all right. I'll get with you after the meeting and we'll go.
Okay.
We'll go back through it, yeah, thank you.
So,
Can you have it?
okay, back to the insurance, we got the new rates, and I was pleasantly surprised they went down.
Our
The health,
current,
the health trust options went down.
That's the company that we don't currently have.
Correct. Yes, that's to the right of this printout.
Anthem Health Trust.
Option 1 and 2.
Right.
Yeah, I know, they went down, I was like, wow, I had to call and make sure, are you sure?
So, in a nutshell, because I haven't run through Anthem's option 1, is option 1 essentially what we currently have with Harvard?
No, not really, and that's on the back of your packet. The last, this right here,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
revised it. So you can see the original rates in the 2017 rates and 2018. Is it the same? Well, not necessarily. I mean, there are some higher deductibles depending on the service. Specialist visits is $40 instead of $15. The current plan is on top of
I got it.
this one.
Okay.
It's not an apple-to-apple plan, so it's, there's a lot of similarities.
Okay, so we go through.
And the chiropractic did stay 12.
Now, the chiropractic for the Anthem products, the first column, the 1540, is 12 visits, but the 2040, it's unlimited.
Oh, so well then, So within option one, you have an A and a B too.
So that's the same. Be nice if these were,
Standardized, the
Yes,
same, I
yeah.
would agree, I know. It'd be easier to shop around.
okay, yeah, that's 150. Ouch.
You pay deductible for labs and x-rays.
Now, when we talked before, you talked about a premium holiday from Interlocal Trust. Is that a rebate, or is that just applies if we go forward with that?
It only applies if we go
Right.
forward with them. We use it if we go with someone else.
So it's an incentive that they're offering for us to continue with that.
I would say so, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
So that's $6,300, right?
correct.
yeah.
Which
Yeah, I applied it on the
Yep.
bottom.
still,
The budget.
still leaves them $80,000 higher than.
Mhm.
Chiropractor. Did you see that on there, Diane?
On the current plan,
It's what, 15, I'm sorry.
$15 copay,
Current
12.
plan is 12 visits, $15 copay.
And they're up to 1240.
and-
Yeah.
And
it would be $40.
So that's the same. And our prescription currently is,
10, 30, 50.
10, 30, 50, right?
Yeah.
And some are
So
zero,
that's-
I think, some, I get some for zero.
Excuse me, 0, 10, 30, 50.
0, 10, 30, 50. So that went down. So for the price, for the savings, I mean, what I'm seeing, for the savings of $78,000, you've got an increase in the ER copay, an increase in the chiropractic copay, an increase in the maximum, doubling of the out-of-pocket expense, and a reduction in the cost for the prescription drugs.